Alright, I just want to get it out of the way before I start this review that I like Pacific Rim Uprising. For all you critics out there that hate it, that say it's awful, I just got one thing to say to you. Hold on. I like Pacific Rim Uprising. You know what? I don't want DVD anyways. Alright, Pacific Rim Uprising is directed this time by somebody who's done more TV productions. He's done such memorable shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Smallville, Angel, and more recently the Starz original series Spartacus. So he brings something different to the table this time than the original director, which and he had Guillermo del Toro, who did the 2013 and very good version of the movie, which was more grittier, darker, more gothic style of directing. A lot of nighttime battles in that movie. So in this movie, we get something completely different. Okay, in this movie, it's been 10 years since the Kaiju War was ended and the breach was closed, and humanity is just trying to pick up the pieces of the destruction that's left over. So they have a bunch of Jaegers that are patrolling the ruined cities in the world, and this movie focuses around Stacker Pentecost's son, John Boyega, Jake Pentecost, and at least in the beginning of the movie, he's selling Jaeger parts, decommissioned Jaegers in the black market. He's hanging around with a bunch of criminals. He's a former Jaeger pilot to be, but he's kind of a slacker. He started his training, but he didn't end it. It's nothing you haven't seen before, but and then there's also a girl, his co-star, who's actually she's all right. She kind of reminds me of Spy Kids. You guys remember Spy Kids? She reminds you a little bit of Spy Kids in here because that's his co-star. She's been living on the streets supposedly all her life, and she's really good at martial arts, and she makes her own Jaeger, known as a Scrapper, because she believes that the Kaiju are going to come back and I'll get to that right now because the Kaiju don't actually come back to the last act of the film, but there's a really powerful cast this time where you get to really see a more cohesive performance by the cast because we got a bunch of Jaeger pilots that are in training, but they're still cadets, and Jake Pentecost, after an even bigger threat this time, a more unstoppable threat than in the first film. He's called upon. He decides to help Lambert, played by Scott Eastwood, on this movie, and including his co-star, his girlfriend or someone or whatnot. And he has to train him, and because there is now I'm gonna get into some spoilers. All right. Okay, there is a plot on here. Okay, I'm gonna first get into the negatives of the film. So this is spoiler. You might want to close your ears or something. All right, okay. There's a plot in here with Newt. You guys remember Charlie Day, including his co-star Herman or German or something. I'm sorry, and he decides because he drifted with the Kaiju in the original film. So now because you guys remember that the Kaiju, the aliens have a hive mind. There are no individuals, so they're able to inhabit his mind and possess him to reopen the drift and let out some Kaiju, and of course in the last act of the film. So I mean, there's a really stupid. Oh my, I can't even say. Oh my, it's just way too stupid. He has basically on this movie he has absolutely no character motivation, no reason behind. The only reason they gave was that he was possessed by aliens because he drifted with the Kaiju brain. So now they're able to control his mind in order, and he's the biggest villain of this movie. And another negative of this film, you guys, Mako Amori from the last film dies on this film, and you really see because it really sucked for me because she has one of the best story arcs of the last film, and of course the best one was Idris Elba's character Stacker Pentecost, but of course he died saving humanity in the last act of the film. So those are really the negatives, and of course there is no cohesive storyline here. It's just kind of it kind of goes. It starts off that that's Jake Pentecost is selling Jagger parts in the black market, and then all of a sudden it's something else. So this movie is kind of all over the place. But what I liked about it is just because John Boyega, I was kind of skeptical from the get go about him because to me, especially with Star Wars, The Force Awakens, I thought he was kind of an over actor on this movie. He's very charismatic, but he made a believer out of me on this film because he kind of overacted a little bit. But he's not really on here. I'm telling you, you guys, if you haven't seen this week, go see it because John Boyega made a believer out of me, and I am officially on the John Boyega bandwagon. And I think he's one of the best and brightest new stars to ever come up in Hollywood right now. So he really gets to shine on this movie, and this movie is more. It's kind of a cross between Gundam and meets Top Gun meets Pacific Rim, and all mixed in a blender. So okay, so the kaiju wanna are in the final battle scene are are trying to open a hole in the long unactive volcano in Mount Fuji in Tokyo, Japan, to terraform what they say in the movie. The atmosphere is suited for the aliens and the kaiju to take over the world, and they would completely kill off us, the humans. So basically, that is the character motivation of the aliens. Not bad for a storyline here. And I just gotta say, the Jaggers on this movie, they look more closer to a cartoon, an animated cartoon, and just done really well though. It's just that they're more closer to an animated cartoon, and the kaiju on this movie, three kaiju are able to sneak away from the breach when the breach opens because there are half kaiju, half Jaeger hybrids on here, including Obsidian Fury, who decides to attack the a demonstration because the government on this movie are trying to make Jaegers that are not where you don't have to operate them manually, so they're able to operate them by remote control of some kind. So Jaeger drones are open the breach and it lets out the kaiju. These are it's I mean they try to go in a completely different direction and I believe they did. It's just they didn't know how to really give a more cohesive storyline and also their Obsidian Fury is actually another half kaiju, half Jaeger hybrid, and I really and now talking about more about the Jaegers and the camera work on this. Oh my God, I got to tell you guys, my head was hurting. I had a headache, and I had my ears were ringing because this movie is loud. This movie is completely devastating. Once the kaiju and the Jaegers start duking it out on screen, you get a lot of widescreen. I mean, a lot of long range shots, overhead shots, and it really has you on the edge of your seat. The battles on here, I'm not saying they're better than the original because the just to live up to the original is just astronomical. It is just way too much. The original is the set the standard, and I think this movie, including Cloverfield, Godzilla 2014, are gonna hopefully open other studios to go out there and make their own giant monster movies, their own kaiju movies, hopefully, because I really haven't seen a whole lot of them lately. I just, there's mostly, we got the MonsterVerse, we got a recent Cloverfield, but that wasn't really that good either. But hopefully they'll reopen, and the interest in kaiju movies again with this movie, this latest kaiju epic, and there is a little glimpse of a Gundam because it's in Tokyo, Japan, and there's a building over there, so you could see a Gundam statue there, including there's actually a Godzilla statue in there, and these movies are definitely inspired by that. And the original, the last act is in Tokyo, Japan. It just stuff is getting wasted, and with the only thing that's kind of alarming when Obsidian Fury decides to use a bunch of cars, balls them up, use them as some kind of whip to attack Gypsy Avenger because there is no Gypsy Danger here anymore because he's I guess a Mark One Jaeger and he's not used in this movie. I really would have wanted to see him return for this movie as well, and he was nowhere to be found. Maybe it was an upgraded version of him. So that's what kind of it distracts you when you see that much destruction. You know things are dying, people are getting wasted, but you don't actually see a whole lot of stuff happen. You do kind of see something like that when the first kaiju makes land in Tokyo, downtown Tokyo, and you see just stuff crumbling everywhere, people running everywhere. It's just like a huge riot. It looks really awesome. I'm not kidding around. I had to look up really high to because I was sitting in the first row at the very end because I wanted to enjoy my movie experience. And I gotta say um, that that Pacific Rim Uprising is a good film, but we all know that it's not a perfect film. And if I covered everything, because there there's all three of the kaiju's actually metamorph into a larger, known as the mega kaiju. It is at least 420 feet tall. I don't know if it's as big as Godzilla Earth or not. I'm not quite sure. Probably not. But it is just humongous. This is the biggest kaiju ever, and it's supposed to be the super, indestructible. And he actually takes out so a lot the Jaggers in the kaiju movie. I like it. The Jaggers were more cartoonish, and I really think this movie was aimed at a younger audience. So if I mean, a lot of people who love Godzilla, who love Ultraman, who love Robotech or a Gundam are gonna love this movie. I don't think this movie could really live up to the original one. The original one is just too much. The bar is just way too high for it. But this movie, end of the day, this movie is enjoyable. This movie is very exciting. This movie is very loud, thunderous, devastating, bone crushing. I'm not kidding around. If you've seen it already, you know what I'm talking about. My ears are still ringing from the how loud it was in the movie theater when I saw it the other day. So, all right, I'm gonna give this movie a B because it could have been a better film, and as far as the story, the cast, it has really good moments in with the cast, and there's a really touching scene, of course, when John Boyega sees Mako die when her helicopter gets crushed by the invading Obsidian Fury, and it ends up killing her. So John Boyega is definitely one of the brightest, uh, the most probably the best new talent that Hollywood has to offer right now, and he's very charismatic. And I'm happy to say I'm on board with him. The guy definitely deserves recognition. Okay, if you like this video, comment up if I missed anything at all, because there is I'm gonna get to that part. They're setting up another sequel because they want to commercialize this, and I think they did. They want to make this into a real franchise that Newt gets captured, and at the very end he says, you think I'm just gonna try harder, blah blah blah. He's kind of like it's just there's some inconsistencies with his character that this really didn't have any motivation or anything spontaneous like the original. I really like those him and Herman from the other film. I thought they were really funny, but honestly, they really didn't get to be their comedic selves at all. They didn't make me laugh, but I had a really great time with this movie, and like I said, it's definitely a great time. All right, if you like this video, share and subscribe and support this blog, and comment on this video. What do you think they're gonna do next? But in the next Pacific Rim movie, there's definitely gonna be a sequel. That is another obvious thing that I found out about this movie. And once again, if the critics did not like this movie, I know what you did anyway. You bunch of losers! All right, you guys. I'll see you guys real soon. Bye.